stand. Yeah. I did it. Now, welcome to the channel. If you had watched my previous video, or one of my previous videos, you'll have seen that James's bike had absolutely gone bang. It had seized solid. That was due to the crank bearings. One of them had just smashed open. So it just locked the engine up, seized it, piston had moved slightly. Luckily the piston had moved and just tapped the spark plug, so it cut the bike out, so no real damage was done to any crankcases or anything. But yeah, you must have heard me mention in the last video that if I manage to fix it, I'll be James's hero. If I don't fix it, then I'm a loser. But no, I'm a hero today. So anyway, I just wanted to put this short video up just to say to anybody that wants to give engine building a go, like if you've got a bike, especially an old one like this, give it a try, because I'm not a mechanic, I'm a carpenter by trade, and I haven't rebuilt an engine since I was a teenager when we used to run around on two-strokes and they used to blow up all the time. And even then it was only top ends, were changing pistons and piston rings. It was never a full strip down and rebuild. So I have to admit I was a little bit dubious of my abilities to do it, not having the knowledge and the tools. But do you know what? It wasn't that difficult. I took the engine out of this bike. I've got a pretty decent mechanical knowledge. I know how things work and I know how they should work, and I know how to undo nuts and bolts. So I got the engine out, put it all on the desk as it came apart, so everything was in order. I took some photographs to document things that when I put them back together, I can just put them back together as it looks in the photograph. You know, being a two-stroke single-cylinder moped engine, there's not that many moving parts. It's not that difficult. So I managed to get it all apart. Like you see in the old video, the crank bearings had gone. They had all smashed and left themselves inside the crank. So yeah, got them off. Now I had two real troubles doing this bike, and I'll explain what they were. The first one was getting the bearings off the crank. The left-hand side one wasn't that bad, but the one that had seized had obviously got too hot, so it was really fused on. And I've watched YouTube to see if I can find any ways of getting them off without the proper tools. And you know what, I didn't want to break the crank, and I saw some people smacking them with chisels and whatnot, and yeah, I didn't fancy doing that. So I went onto eBay and spent, what, about 18 quid? And I got a complete bearing, brand new bearing puller kit. I've got two bearing pullers in there. I used the smaller one. And you know what? That's what they say about having a proper kit. It got the bearings off in about 10 seconds flat. So that was problem number one out of the way. Problem number two is, now I know really the old-fashioned way, or the proper way, is to probably put the bearings in the casings, the new bearings in the casings, and then put the crank in and have it all pressed together. I don't have a bearing crank press, nor do I really know how to do that. So I called my stepdad up, who gave me some old school tips, because I used to watch him do things when I was a kid. That's how I learned. And now, I always remember as a kid that there was always something in the freezer that shouldn't have been there. It was a set of bearings, it was a crank, it was a crankcase. There was something in the freezer that used to drive my mum up the wall because he'd been putting bike parts in there. And now I understand why. Because I had real trouble, once I put the bearings on the crank, they were on fine. I just used an oversized socket and just tapped them on. I had a real problem of putting the two crankcases back together with the bearings trying to sit in their seats. I just couldn't get them in. So I called him up and he said, Paul, there's only one way to do it. You must remember how I did it. And that was put your crank and the bearings in the freezer overnight. Warm the cases up with a blowtorch before you put the crank back together, and it'll all be fine. And I kind of thought, you must be mad. Anyway, put the crank and the bearings in the freezer, as he said. Got the engine cases, the two aluminium cases, and I just warmed the seats up of the bearing seats for about a couple of 10, 20 seconds with a blowtorch. Not to get them too hot, because you don't want the temperature differences to be too severe that anything could crack. Just warm them up, and you know what? He was absolutely right. These old school backstreet mechanics, he just knows it. I put the crankcases together, and they just went absolutely beautiful. Tiny little tap, and it all went together. And now I've just managed to leave a little gap so I can get the sealer in the crankcases to get the two cases together, and then it just kind of pushed in, bolted them up. That was the crank done. So yeah, thanks for that tip, and thanks for explaining why there was always engine parts in the freezer when I was a kid. And then after that, it was just easy. Just put the piston back on the com rod, and I put the top end on with all new gaskets. Every gasket on this bike is new. I just bought a kit, and I just replaced anything I could. Yeah, and it took me a few hours to get it all back together, get the engine back in, connect all the services back up, just make sure the oil pump was working and there's oil going in, and she's fine. And I can quite honestly say it's as quiet now as it was probably when it was new. Now, I did another video a few weeks ago when I was just fixing something on James's carburetor, the inlet manifold had split. And I could hear then that the bike didn't sound quite right. It was rumbling. There was something rumbling in the background. I just kind of put it down to being an older bike, but it wasn't. That was obviously the start of the bearing going. And now she's as quiet as a mouse. So I'm confident that I've done a good job and she's going to be fine. So all he's got to do over the next week or two is just ride it a bit easy, just to bed those bearings in, what we call running it in. And yeah, he should be good to go. So no, I'm really proud of myself because, like I say, I'm a carpenter and I wouldn't call myself a mechanic by any means. I don't have the knowledge or the tools to do it, but I did it, and I proved that you can sort of do it yourself at home. Now this is a 20-odd-year-old moped. I certainly wouldn't be making that effort on my cross tourer because yeah, I wouldn't know what I was doing. That's way too mechanical for me, and the bike's too new. But for an older bike, I'd say just give it a go. Don't throw it away. Take it apart, lay it all out, work it out, and then put it back together. And there's a wealth of videos on YouTube. There's people giving some really, really great tips on how to do these things. And when you get stuck at a point, just bang YouTube on, watch someone do it, and then give it a go. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to absolutely muller the engine. You needed a new one anyway, so. But it was good fun. 2 days of sort of taking it apart, and 1 day to put it back together. We've just saved ourselves hundreds of pounds on buying him a new bike, and I've learned something along the way. So yeah, I'm going to keep these tools. I'm not going to throw them away because I've got a few projects that I want to get into this shed over the winter. So whereas before I was just doing projects and cosmetically doing these bikes up, I may go one step further. Now I've proven to myself that I can take the time and take an engine apart and put it back together. I may buy a bigger project that does need a full strip down and rebuild. So let's see. Let's watch this space. That's what I say. But anyway, I won't ramble on. This is just a quick video to sort of follow on from the last one to say that yes, I've managed to do it and it works. So yeah, give it a go. Give mechanicing a go because it's actually quite good fun. And when it works, it's great. I certainly wouldn't have made this video if it didn't work. So yeah. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to build this channel, and all the subscriptions will really help us out. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. We're off out for a ride. Cheers.